let's think about maybe a more fundamental question. Who exactly are we talking about? The runner in the consumer arms race. Nancy Koehn is a professor at the Harvard Business School. She studies the history of business and consumerism in America. Nancy, thank you so much for being with us.
Pleasure.
So, am I the consumer we're talking about?
No. In general,
all right, good. I got to go. What does that mean?
Well,
so who is?
So it's women. Women make
Women
are the major decision maker on over 70% of the consumption decisions in the economy, and same kind of numbers when you talk about financial decisions.
Yep.
So it's a she overwhelmingly,
okay.
And she is, with the exception of the very lowest strata, right? And that some of those people are in those permanently unemployed, but a lot of them aren't, right? She is empowered, emboldened. She is calculating. She is canny. She is hunting and gathering.
Okay, but wait. How come she's looking at $1,500 grills if she's empowered when she already has a grill? She, he, whatever.
So here's what we know post-2008, because consumers have always been smart and canny.
Yeah.
Her antennae are much more responsive.
Okay.
So, dark winds blow about unemployment or housing prices, and she pulls back. The reason she's not looking at $1,500 grills, but the reason she's looking at these expensive tennis shoes for her teenage son is because she's choosing very, very carefully what are the things that I want to trade up on, and there are a variety of reasons for that. Some of that's about your child and showing your child off. A lot of it is about what Thorstein Veblen called conspicuous consumption or keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah, we'll get to that, actually. Scott Tong's going to talk exactly about that.
But that's very important. It's even more important historically when income inequality is going up. She is also very, very interested in if she's going to buy the expensive tennis shoes or she's going to buy, the expensive wine, right, or microbrewery beer for her husband, she's going to cut back somewhere else. So the internet, Groupon, coupon clipping, which is way, way up.
Yeah.
Right? So she's doing this all the time.
Is she, you said she was empowered and emboldened. Is she in practice if she actually has to make all those decisions and choices?
Oh, yeah. She's like my show jumping horse who doesn't need a calculator.
You have a show jumping horse?
I do.
Okay.
And he doesn't need a calculator to figure out how many strides to go over that 3'6" ox. Or
she just know it just
happens. It's happening.
Wow.
It's absolutely happening, and she's doing it all the time. And yes, your hardware store merchant or the Walmart display, or even more likely, right, the Costco display, right, has figured out what are the things she buys together, and they're neatly merchandised like that. But she's not easily duped, not at all.
All right.
And by the way, she's a little bit, her balance sheet is actually markedly better than it was in 2009. So the latest Fed data on this show that consumers continue to dial down debt.
Deleveraging is the technical phrase, right?
I'm sorry, deleveraging. Yep. She's still doing that, and she's very careful about it, much more careful than she would have been on average 6 years ago.
Now here's the thing. If this consumer is deleveraging, right? If she is saying, I don't want to borrow to spend, but I still want to spend.
Yep.
How's that working? Because as we've been talking about, you got to have consumers driving the economy. You got to have consumers driving growth. So if she's deleveraging.
So that's a problem if you kind of carry out the macroeconomic, unroll the macroeconomic string here. Absolutely. And for a long, long time, just like the stock market's being gassed up on Federal Reserve injections, the American economy, right, for many years, 25 years, has been gassed up on C plus investment plus government spending minus net exports plus net exports, has been gassed up on consumption. So we, as a macroeconomy, are in some sense addicted to her continuing to grow consumption in real terms. I just don't think it can last.
Which is why we're here. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, the question is this growth thing. Can we afford to keep going? Can we afford the consumer economy that we have?
Well,
no matter how smart she is, no matter how many Groupons she does, no matter what tennis shoes she buys.
So I feel like that's like another ticking time bomb that we don't really talk about very much. It's a little bit like, how stable is our financial system or the world financial system, and what about this global climate change?
That's tricky because it's not stable and climate change is bad, and so that...
Right, and so I'm a little bit worried that this is in the same camp. Like how long? Maybe it's not a linear answer, Kai, right? And like the financial crisis.
Explain that, right? Because it gets worse faster the faster it gets worse.
Exactly. Right, and so I think it's entirely possible that consumption, again, assuming what I know about consumers is, and I'm not saying anything controversial about new canniness, right, and new new care is right on. You know, so, another shock to the system, and the wall. Remember Bergdorf's? Remember Macy's was empty for months after 2008.
Yep.
What if that happens with a new, smarter consumer? What if everything is empty? So
No. I'm asking the questions. What happens?
Okay, sorry. I think.
What happens if?
We stop. We stop in a different version of what happens if the banks close their doors.
Right.
It stops.
Should we just get used to, instead of having 3% growth in gross domestic product, which we've had historically for 70 years, should we get used to this 1.8 that we got yesterday for the second quarter?
No question.
Really? We should just get used to that. And everything that means
with
standard of living declines and all of that stuff.
Well, unless we find different sources of gas for that, right? A new kind of investment, right? A new kind of exports, right?
Yeah.
Green technology. I don't see it.
Sounds like you're saying that we can't really afford this consumer economy that we have, right?
I think at a macro level we cannot. Just like I'm not sure we can afford the lifestyles that are premised on that and what it does to the climate.
Nancy Koehn. She teaches
I love
business
to shop
at Harvard University. Nancy, thank you so much.